Good morning. Go ahead, turn with me to Luke 16. Take out your message notes. If you don't have message notes, you might need them today. But if you don't want them, you don't have to have them. Okay, it's not necessary. But it's good to be with you guys. And I want to thank Eric for his communion and just kind of helping us to see and remember that, sometimes in our faith, we do go through some challenges, right? But to have things in a proper perspective, to say, hey, we might have some challenges here, but, we're right with God, and that's what counts. But, I'm talking about a topic I spoke about the first time 2 weeks ago in the North region. I never spoke about this I've never spoken this chapter before, Luke 16, about the shrewd manager. Nor have I ever sat in a sermon where they talked about it. And so to me, it was like fascinating. Once I realized it, I was like, wow, 23 years as a disciple, not sitting in a sermon where this topic was never spoken about. Now, we reference verse 13. You can't serve both God and money, right? But we never talk about the whole concept. And I wondered if it because we were just Americans and money and finance is a very personal thing to us. Okay? But we're going to get into it, and I'm not going to at the end say, raise your contribution or any of that stuff. I'm not going there, okay? I just want to look at the principle and the concept that's being spoken about within that chapter. All right? The first 16 verses. And I'm just kind of waiting for the get up there, and there we go. So I want to begin with, you want to hit the main point, or do I have it to do it? What I mean by main point slideshow. We're getting there. So Cecil is in sin today as he's at the Dallas Cowboy game. It was good to see his son showed up. He's not. You're setting the pace in your family, man. Good job. I say that as a Giants fan who's playing the Cowboys today. I think I have a lot more Giant fans today than I normally do in this house. So we'll get into it. But I want to begin, I talk about the shrewd manager, all right? Luke 16. God bless you. Now I want to begin with some idioms, okay? An idiom is a form of expression that is particular to a certain person or group of people, okay? Because it only works within the culture that you're with, okay? And so you think about the story. You ever hear of Amelia Bedelia, the children book she writes, right? And she has this one where the woman's asked, they said, hey, go dress the chicken, okay? She works in the kitchen. And so what she does is she makes little pants for the chickens. Okay? And then you get the other one, she goes, hey, put out the lights. And so what she goes is she takes all the light bulbs out of all the lights in the house, right? Those are idioms, okay? Dress the chicken doesn't literally mean put a suit on the chicken, all right? It's a cooking term, all right? Get that chicken ready for us to cook and eat, all right? We have different idioms. For instance, kick the bucket. That's an idiom, right? Right? What's that mean? Somebody has died, okay? We don't mean go and kick buckets all over the place, all right? Then we got catch a person, or catch my drift. I messed up there, right? Catch my drift, right? Doesn't mean when I'm drifting away, you grab me and pull me back. Do you get the idea what I'm talking about here, right? Don't beat around the bush, right? It's not, get right to the point, right? Do you have anybody have a favorite idiom that they use? That's a half yes and no. What is it? Lord love a duck? I don't know if that's going to catch, but there you go. All right. It's a Utah term. Utah is unique. That's its own idiom. So, anybody have another one that they use or hear often, even growing up? Raining cats and dogs, right? That's a good one, right? Imagine coming from another country, right? Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. When I went to India, I said, I guess it may not be an idiom. I was like, holy cow, right? And the brother who's an evangelist out there stops and goes, what do you mean by that? And I realized, I'm in Hindu nation, right? Cows are holy here. And I'm saying holy cow, right? And so it just didn't work in that culture. They don't get it, okay? And the Bible has its own idioms that we read with our eyes and our understanding, but they kind of mean difference, right? And so this is sort of a context and bringing into light some of the things that we may cross paths with in this passage or trying to understand. So here's an idiom. Good eyes or healthy eye versus a bad eye, okay? And so in the scripture talks about it in Matthew 6:22. It talks about a good eye or a healthy eye, where it says, what that means is to look out for the needs of others and be generous and given to the poor. So when it talks about having a good eye, it's understanding like your eye is keen in seeing needs and then acting on them. Okay? Specifically here we're talking about needs of the poor. Right before this passage is actually connected, all right, where your heart will be, so your treasure will be. So in essence, what that means is that your treasure is in heaven is referring to you having a good eye, taking care of the needs that you see. Now, on the flip side, an unhealthy eye is ignoring those needs or not seeing them, right? It's a greedy or self-centered person, blind to the needs of those around you. And so in the context of what we're going to be talking about today, some of that exists, right? Can't love God and money, right? The context in Matthew, right after this, it says that very thing. You can't serve two masters. And it's what it's meaning is that, man, if you have a good eye, when it comes to what we have or what we've been blessed with, when we see needs and meet it, that's a good eye. And when we see needs, ignore it, or we pay no attention to it and we don't need it, Jesus said those are unhealthy eyes. It's how they process that, okay? And so I say that in lieu of what we're about to talk about, a little context of some of the things you may read. You with me? Okay. Now, point number one we're going to look at, let's get there to verse 16, chapter 16. Now, I kind of switched things on your notes, so I'll let you know where to write. I did it in last minute because I thought it fit better. After I made the prints. How convenient is that? So, failure to condemn. Failure condemned, okay? Verses 1 through 3. Jesus told his disciples there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. It's interesting that word waste is the same word used with the prodigal son. He squandered his wealth. Squandered, waste. Same word, same term. So the story kind of connects the two in that. And that's what Jesus is really trying to do, because the context of this passage is this idea that started in 14, where he's saying, hey, don't just feed your own friends, don't just feed those who you like, look, take care of the lame, the poor, the blind, the crippled, those in need in society, right? Hey, think about the sinner. Don't leave them out. The wanderer. Don't leave them alone out there. Okay? Even those who are lost within your own home. Don't ignore them. We have to bring them on in. So it's those who are the oppressed, those who are the outsiders in society that Jesus is concerned about in these various different chapters. Chapter 14, 15, 16, 17, a little bit of 18. And so he's telling one story after another to help them understand this concept that we've got to reach out to these folks and bring them on in. And so he goes, and here's this story about this shrewd manager. There was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions, right? So his manager, this rich man, hires his manager to take care of his affairs. And now he's realizing, hey, I'm hearing you are wasting, you are squandering my wealth. No one likes that, no matter how much money you have. You just don't like somebody else messing with that, okay? And so he goes, he says, so he called him and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. And so that's where we're at. His failure to manage is condemned by the rich man. And so we got to see that we need to care. All right? That's the second half of your first point of your notes. We need to care. So it began to happen with this guy. Somewhere, somehow, he became careless with this rich man's money. We don't know how. We don't know why. We just realized that he became careless in his position. He was given the responsibility to take care of someone else's property, and he became careless with that. And, I just kind of put this saying together that careless just means we care less. This man just began to care less about his role, his position, and his authority. And he began to care less about that it wasn't his money he was dealing with. He was dealing with someone else's money. And he just didn't care about it. There was no concern. But somehow, some way, he became careless. And one of the things we have to realize is that all of us, in some shape or form, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, that you are a steward, a manager of his kingdom or his church, right? Or maybe just right here in South Jersey, or maybe whatever role it is that you have in your family, okay? Or whatever that is, we've been given a role, we've been given a responsibility through Christ. It says, I leave this in your care. I will work with you, I will be with you in this, but I'm leaving it in your care. Somehow, some reason, in his infinite wisdom, he realized that the best thing we could do is have man work with man. And he walks along with us in that journey. And we have to remember three things, because we don't want to get careless. And we don't want to care less about his stuff, because there's a few things we have to remember. One, remember these three things. Death is coming. Right? Death is coming to all of us. I know that's very positive, isn't it? But we got to get used to it, because I don't know anybody that Jesus that has escaped it, okay? And so death is coming to all of us. So take care of what God has entrusted you with. And Christ is coming, right? I don't know where your faith is at, but I'm telling you, I believe what the scriptures say, that one day Jesus will return. And we need to be aware and take care of that. Take care of our souls and the souls that the Lord has put in our care. And then, of course, accountability is coming. One day, we will be accountable for our actions. And that's exactly what happens to this shrewd manager, this manager right here. Because he tells him, the rich man comes to him and says, so he called him in and asked, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management. Give an account of what I have put in charge to you. And we're all in that boat, are we not? See, God has put in charge, in our care, his good spirit. He has given us his word. He has given us Christ himself. And we're going to stand before God one day, and he's going to say, what did you do with the gifts I gave you? So, we need accountability in our lives now. I don't know what happened, and I said this earlier, somehow, some way, somewhere, this man went off course. Perhaps he didn't even realize it, but he went off course. Maybe he did. Maybe all along he was saying, I know I should be doing this. Or I should be doing that. Or I could do a little bit more here. Or maybe I should be doing less of this and put more energy into this. Something went off on this man. And I just wondered if he had some accountability along the way with those things that he went off track earlier would have been corrected sooner. Before it got to this point. And now he's about to lose his position. Likewise for us, we have to realize that accountability is not a bad thing. At times it can be used inappropriately. But that's where we have to work through as human beings. But the bottom line is, in the end, man, accountability now helps me be more successful than when I have to face that accountability in the end. I need accountability. I shared this with my Bible talk, men, we have a D group. And I was like, look, I'm just really lacking. See, the summer hit, and I just got off course on certain things in my faith. Just had this great habit, consistency, was healthy. And when, of course, one of the things that always bothers me is that my title is an evangelist. An evangelist who doesn't evangelize should not wear that title, okay? I should be out there making disciples and training and raising up leadership. When I'm not doing those things, I go, wow, I'm not really doing what I've been ordained. To get up here and teach and to preach and say one thing but live another is not right. I need accountability because when the summer came, I got off of my reaching out. So I got open with my group. And I've been asking them to keep me accountable. And how I do it is I text them and let them know. Today I fulfilled what I asked at my account. I fulfilled my mission. I share it with someone. I share it with people. I'm studying the Bible with people. Alright? So as I chuck back there on the camera, I got Anthony on the computer. Right? I got them all in positions here. Alright? Dave gets it. Bob gets it. The only problem is this week I forgot to text them. I'm sorry, guys. Accountability. But I want them to know, hey, this is where I'm doing it not because they asked me to or they're making me do it. I want it. Because I want to succeed in this area. Okay? And they all have things that they're asking us to say, hey, help me in this one area. It's not a whole bunch of things. We're just saying one thing. This is the area I want to get back on track. This is where I need accountability. We all need some accountability because we're responsible to God in these areas. Our time. Okay? Our time. We should use our time wisely. Use it for God. In fact, money can be regained, but time is lost forever. It is more precious than money. What are we doing with our time that we will be responsible to God for? Are we using it for our own glory? Or do we give it to God? How about our talents? Okay? We must develop our God-given talents. We spoke about this a few weeks ago about God has shaped us, right? He's given us spiritual gifts. He's given us our heart, our passions in life, right? Our attitudes, our personalities, our positions, right? Our experiences. He's given us all these things, our talent. Why? So that we can use it to help advance His purposes and callings. All right? I'm sticking with T's, so I'll bring up the tithing, okay? Or just our money, okay? What is it used for? Are we building up our own barns and neglecting the needs of others? Or are we using it not just to help ourselves and our family, but to help others as well, especially when it comes to the area of needs? Traits. What I mean by that is we owe this, I mean that our character traits or habits must be molded according to God's Word. That we're constantly being transformed and changed and being molded by God so that we can begin to live more and more of that passage of Scripture where it says in Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit. We'll become more and more godly in our character. We'll be accountable because in the end, what Jesus is concerned about, or what God's concerned about, is that we look and act like His Son. And then finally, our testimony. We must be witnesses to God and what He has done. God gives us accountability. We'll be responsible for that. I have enjoyed the testimonies that have been shared. When people get up here and they share their testimony, they hear their stories. But one of the things I remember hearing a few times, and I think I've shared this with you, is that all the Christians, right, that for us have been around for a while, remembering your testimony has been pretty difficult for some. Wow, we've got out of practice forgetting what we have been saved from and how God worked in our lives during that time. And the reason why we get out of that practice is because we're no longer sharing that testimony. It's no longer fresh. But never forget our testimony. We continue to share it and grow in your testimony. Because Lord didn't stop there, that's for sure. Right? So, here, choose to prevent neglect and mismanagement of your soul. In Invite consistent accountability into your relationship with God. Invite consistent accountability into your relationship with God. This is a false narrative if you think you could do your faith alone. It's unscriptural, and it makes no sense in any area in life. A recovering addict has accountability. We are all sin addicts. Every human being is addicted to the flesh. There is no exception. And so we all need people in our lives to help us to get to the end. If you are living your life individually, you're not following the footsteps of Christ. You have created your own path. I implore you, please, reconsider that and come into the fold and have healthy accountability in your life. I said healthy accountability. Amen? Let's continue on. Foresight commended. Verses 4 through 9, chapter 16. This gets a little perplexing, but I think this is why some people just ignore this passage and don't teach from it. But really, it's pretty awesome when you start to think about it. In verse 4, it begins. Actually, go verse 3, because we didn't read that part yet. The manager said to himself, "What shall I do now? My master has taken away my job. I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. I know that I'll know what I'll do so that when I lose my job here, people will welcome me into their house." And so he called each one of his master's debtors, right? So basically the master has land, and he leases his land out to these people. And so now they owe him. He asked the first, "How much do you owe my master?" 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, "Take your bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. That's nice, isn't it? Then he asked the second, "And how much do you owe?" 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, "Take your bill and make it 800. You know, I think we should do a campaign on April 15th, and everyone send their scripture in. Just think about that, okay? It's a good one. Right? Now here's the thing that's perplexing. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than those of the people of the light. I tell you, use your worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into the eternal dwelling. Guys, why do you think this rich man who just lost half his money, or half of what was owed to him through these people, is praising this manager? Half's better than none? I guess that's a way of looking at it. I didn't think about that, but yeah, half's better than none. Okay, anybody else have anything else? Anything else? Anything else? That doesn't make sense, maybe. I don't know. Go ahead. They're getting, yeah, but it's the, yeah, they're fired up, but the rich man, why is he commending and praising him? Yeah. 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 I think she's really close. But anybody else?
He actually studied thing instead of just being careless and go about purpose and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the rich man? Yeah. Well, go ahead. Yeah. Remember the favors? Yeah. Yeah, it's still good stuff. I want you to think about something. The manager has full control of the affairs of the rich man. So he's actually in his legal rights to raise or lower that amount. He's using his position, right? And though it might be, the motives might be a little bit selfish here, but he's actually using his position that he has and the resources he has to alleviate a burden on someone, and yet at the same time he is helping himself, right? But the baffling thing is that the rich man who lost half the money from those people is praising him for what he did. And this is why I think it happens. You might think differently, but this is what I think it happens. The people know that that manager is the representative of the rich man. And so who honestly is going to get the praise in the end? The rich man. They're going to see that and go, wow, that man is a benevolent ruler. All right? And they're going to give praises. So all of a sudden this rich man, who was probably not liked very much in society, starts walking down the street, if he did walk or carry or whatever the stroll he was doing, okay? And there the townspeople are coming on out and they're giving him praise. He's getting the recognition. He's getting the praise. He's getting the glory for what the shrewd manager did. And now he's looked favorable by the people. From unpopular to popular. In this story, yes?
Yeah, I think also, if you have bills to pay, and he has other workers to pay, and nothing's coming in, you go mad, just waiting and wondering, at least he has that to pay off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is idea, guys, is we look at this situation that God is giving us in America a certain amount of money and finances and resources and gifts and talents and everything else, okay? We've been given so much. And he's calling us in this passage to think about, whether your motives are pure or not, to think about when we use our resources and our positions for the advancement and glory of God, who gets the praise? God. And that's what it's all about. It's getting us using our resources and our positions to bring God glory. And so the world may not like religion. I shared my faith the other day with a person, and he goes, I think religion is a stain. He did not like it. I had a great conversation with them, right? But you know, one of the things he could not argue with, because when I said it stumped him, is that, man, Christians have given more than charity of their time and their money. In fact, charity does not exist in the Western world unless Christians did it. It all began with the church going beyond just their members, but taking care of everyone's society. And what happens is God is looked at more favorably. Well, faith in God grows. What we do with our positions and resources and how we use it to advance God's glory and kingdom makes an impact to others. Not just alleviate their oppression, but they turn around and they praise our God. And as a church, we do many great things. And we have an opportunity to always serve in this area. Look at some of the stuff. Next week, it's missions. We had a video, but of course it's not working. But we had this video, okay? And I'm going to set it on Facebook, and if you can pass it around to others in any way, which way you know how. But it's amazing. It's just going through the churches of India, and it's talking about how our giving has impacted all of India and beyond. And we know in our special missions what is done for Lehigh and State College, and how we've been able to help Hershey, and how we've been able to help some of the churches in Ohio and different things like that, church plantings that we're doing in the future, just by this little act of giving. Many are praising God, right? Right here in our own community, when we serve and we give and we meet needs of people, how that brings light on God, shines the light on Him. We have all these things, Hope for Kids, taking kids in high-risk areas and along with our own kids and coming to a camp where we're all together, and it impacts in a way that, man, you don't see outside of here. Yeah, I remember there was a brother when we were in the North region, him and his wife, You know what? They had no bills. Their house was paid off. Their cars were paid off. They had nada, no debts. And they looked at that. They could have got a bigger house. They didn't. They stayed in their one little home. They could have got nicer cars. They didn't. They lived with what they had. In fact, often they took the train. They made good money, but they didn't make great money. They were probably average for our area. They put right in the middle of all that. But one of the things I used to always marvel about them, is that they set aside each month a budget that they put into for those who might have needs. They put a financial budget in there. So whenever we would come and say, hey, there's a financial issue here, can you help? They'd be like, yeah. And what they would do is they would give $5, $6, maybe $1,000 in just groceries. They'd have a grocery card for the grocery store that they shopped at. And they'd say they won't have to worry about food. Here they go. Right? When it came to giving the camp, when it came to giving the different things, it was in their budget. They could have spent that anywhere and done it any which way. They chose to use what they had and what they've been blessed with to help bless others. And so many people, and we would get the cards back from people because it would be anonymous, and we'd get these cards and we would see what these people would write, disciples and non-disciples, and see what they would write, their gratitude and praise for God for what they were able to do. See, we have been given so much. If we really think about it, how we're spending our time, our energy, our traits, and our tithing and everything else, man, we could be using it for ourselves, building up our barns, or we really can be making an impact in this world. These are just a few things that we do. Saturday Academy, right? We have ODAT and all these different things that we have and serve. Man, your positions in life, your jobs, whatever it is, your influences, your whatever you have, use it to God's glory to make an impact. This is what he's talking about. So let's just let Jesus finish this lesson out here, right? In verses 10 through 16. Let me see a guy. Yes, okay. 10 through 16. Faithfulness counseled, right? That means it's advised, it's encouraged. And it reads, just in verse 10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So, what God has given you, that very little that he's given you, or the much that he's given you, what he's saying is, I'm entrusting you with this. If you want more, then be worthy of what you have. Be trustworthy of what I've given you. And use it. But if I give you more and you're not trustworthy with the little I give you, I'm not going to be able to trust you with even more. So, we need to be faithful in the small things. Right? We need to be faithful in the small things that we have. Be faithful with the material things we have. Verses 11 and 12. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, right? If your eyes are not good, who will trust you with true riches? And if you have not been trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own, right? You've been given stuff. Be trustworthy with it. Be trustworthy with the small things that you have. Be trustworthy with the materialistic things that you have. And then we'll be faithful as a servant. Let's continue verse 12. Or what's that? 13, excuse me. No one can serve two masters, right? There's the context again. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. But he's not saying money is good or bad. He's saying your attitude is what matters in this. God is not out to get your money. He's out. He wants to make sure your money does not get you. And what goes on is when we think of others' needs, that's a way how we keep the money out of our hearts into our hands. When it's into our hands, we have it, but we also be willing to give it away. But when it's in our heart, it's hard to separate. Keep what we have been gifted with in our hands. ready to be used by the master so that he can bring his name, honor, and glory, right? I think about foolishness is obvious. Foolishness is obvious. Verse 14. The Pharisees who loved money heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. They did not like it because he's challenging them. They were so tight-fisted. Their things were so close to their hearts. They had unhealthy eyes. I bet you even today there's some people sneering. Maybe some in video land later on. Okay? It's a touchy subject. I understand. It just seems like those who have less are more willing to give it up easier than those who have more. And it challenges us all. And that's what parables are supposed to do. They're supposed to be provocative. They're supposed to challenge us. We're supposed to look at it and go, who am I in this? Who am I acting like? And Jesus is saying, look at the shrewd manager. We praise it. Yeah, his motives may not be right, but he alleviated the oppressed with it. And he was rewarded and blessed by the rich man from it. And he said to them, you're the one who justifies yourselves in the eyes of others, but God knows your heart. What people value highly is detestable in God's sight. And so I leave you with this. Choose to be faithful to God with your time, with your talents, with your tithes, with your traits, with your testimony. Have some accountability in your life in these areas. Think about what God wants to do, and to him be the glory. God bless you.